I'm Richard Asprey. I'm a lifelong motorcycle rider and collector of motorcycles from all over the world. And with my friends, I ride them. This is my motorcycle journey. Award-winning collector and my mate Stewart Garrison has been riding motorcycles all his life. But these days, you're more likely to find him in his garage, personally restoring one of his beauties and finding his happy place.
I got into riding motorcycles when I was 14, just small, Honda 65s, but I really got into it when I went to college in Austin, and I got into British motorcycles, European road bikes. I'm Stewart Garrison, and this is my motorcycle journey. People ask me, what's your favorite motorcycle? And it's always the one I'm working on right now. I've kind of thought back to what is the start of my dysfunction. And I think it started back that we used to get together after school and go on rides. And the ride always started with gathering at somebody's garage or shop, and we would work on the motorcycles. Even when these bikes were new, you had to tweak them to go riding. My dysfunction metamorphosed over into more the prep and the work. Well, you can only prep and work on a motorcycle so long until it's right. So I'd have to go to another motorcycle and prep and work on it until it was right. That's where I feel like I got my multiple bike disorder, is I just keep having to add motorcycles to stay involved. And every now and then we get the adventure going on a ride. But it really is, it's 90% trying to restore motorcycles and just get them ready for the ride. No matter what shape they're in, I'm trying to get them ready for the ride. I have restored some exotic motorcycles that I never really rode much. Down the street and back to make sure they rode, but never really took them on a ride. I have other bikes that I build specifically to ride that, I go out and wear them out with the intent that if I wear it out, I'll take it apart and do it over again, and start over. And I have done that on a couple of motorcycles, ridden them until they had to start over. But some of these exotic bikes, which are really fun, and the more I got into working on them, the more I started coming up with a bucket list and slowly gotten through it, and been really blessed with some of the bikes that have fallen my direction. And then also kind of replaced some of the excitement of riding with the excitement of the hunt. Going out and looking, I'll get a word that there's a motorcycle in a field outside Leander, Texas. Drive down there on Saturday morning and find it. It turned out to be a 64 Triumph TT. One of my employees came in and told me he saw two old Triumphs in a wrecking yard in Oklahoma. And told me this on a Friday afternoon. On Saturday morning, I drove in the snow to Oklahoma City, drove 2 hours or an hour north Oklahoma City, found the wrecking yard, and there were three old Triumphs laying there. And I loaded them up, bought them for $1,200 with, the guy handed me the titles to them. And as I'm driving home in the snow, I'm looking at the titles to try to see what they were. And they were 59 Triumph Bonnevilles, which is just a gold mine. How do you stumble across this? So the art of the find has become really fun. The Brough Superior, that came along, I was seconds behind the guy that originally found it, but I was on the trail. I had a friend call me and I was out of town. The Ducatis that I just took to the Quail, I found literally 500 feet from my front door. There was a neighbor down the street that had had them for years and years, and he passed away, and I was just right place, right time. So he had 25 or 30 motorcycles, and he valued them as much taken apart and dismantled as he did all put together. The motorcycle behind me was spread out all over his entire property, totally dismantled. The wiring harness was under his bed, the carburetors were in the garage, the wheels were in the front yard. And when I put it all together, that's how it looked. It was a restored motorcycle that he had dismantled and spread out. That's kind of part of the fun of the hunt, finding them. And I can find just really pieces of them and get back to where I need to be with the motorcycle. Usually if I don't have the whole motorcycle, I'll do some kind of resto mod or just have fun with it, but still get it back on the road. It's still all part of getting it ready for the ride. To win anything at the Quail is a thrill, so you go out there with the intent of I want to see what's there and I want to show what I have. Winning is just icing on the cake. You have to apply and be accepted, but they had 350 motorcycles there. A lot of things you don't see anywhere else, and the facility's wonderful. It's on a golf course. It's judged by an expert panel of judges. You can tell when they come by to start talking to you about it, they know more about the motorcycle than I do. And so it's fun being in that kind of environment. And I took 4 motorcycles. 3 of them I thought had a chance. The 4th one, which I didn't put much weight in, I built it really to ride, won Best Italian. And so it is in the eye of the beholder. And in their mind, it was the most accurate restored of the 4, even though the other 3 were more exotic, more valuable. It was the least valuable of the 4. And again, it was one that I took it as an also, because I wanted the set of 71, 72, 73, and 74. The 71 is very exotic, the 74 is very exotic. The 72 is kind of a also ran, but it won Best Italian. No, I went in 2013 and took a Bruff Superior with a sidecar that I found in a hoard here in Arlington, along with an Ariel Square 4 with a sidecar. Neither one of them, the sidecars weren't here, but when I got the bikes home and got looking at them, they were geared for a sidecar when I found the original build cards. So I went searching for a sidecar, and the first day on the internet, the first one I looked at was a pre-war Watsonian sidecar in England that I bid on and won, paid 4 times more than I paid for it to ship it here. But when I got it here and I met it up next to the Bruff, it looked like it had come off that bike. And it had been sitting in a barn for 40 years. It had the original horsehair seat in it. The motorcycle together came out beautifully. I didn't adjust a single thing on the frame or either. I just put them together and they bolted up. And then I think a lot of old vintage motorcycles were very consistent with how they did that. But it came off something similar to a Bruff, and it looked so good on it that it won Best Antique Motorcycle at the Quail. But again, the find was what was really exciting. Finding the bikes here in Arlington and then finding these 2 sidecars in England that matched up to them was, that was a thrill. And of course, my passion is the restoration, not as much the collection. I've restored 75 bikes, but to restore another one, I have to liquidate one to have room for someplace to put it and the funds to actually do it. I ran out of places to put them. There was one in every nick in the office, so it just makes more sense to sell them and manage. Again, my passion's restoring them. So now I'm having to be selective and look for things that really excite me. And I think the only thing I haven't done that I really want to do is Manx Norton. I've just always had a passion for them. I just hadn't found one in a barn yet. But there's one out there somewhere.